Hi, this is Ellen J. Mann, and you are watching the Honor Yourself First show, the place to be for information and inspiration on rediscovering the real you and living the life that you desire and deserve. And today we're going to talk about an issue that's pretty common. I put a Facebook post out there asking the question, what is blocking you from having the life that you want and you desire? And a lot of the responses came back with, well, I just don't believe that I can have it. So a lot of it has to do with self-worth. And so today we're going to talk about, are we worthy or aren't we worthy? And Tina Baker, one of my fellow coaches, is here with me today, and we are going to talk about that, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Thank you for having me, Ellen.
I love it that you're here. So I actually came up with an acronym for worthy that I thought we'd kind of focus on today. And you said you would be willing to do that with me.
It'll be great. Thanks.
It'll be great. So why do you think most people feel that they're not worthy of having what they love, what they desire, what they really want in life?
I think we walk around with a lot of voices in our head, and I call them the voices of expectations. So a lot of people walk around with negative thinking, negative thoughts. They beat themselves up. They judge themselves. But if you try to figure out whose voices they really are, that's the first step.
Yeah.
So it might be, so ask yourself if there's a negative self-talk that's happening. Who is that really? Is that really me? Or is that a parent, a spouse, a boss, the media? Or is always feeding us with these
big time
expectations. So ask yourself when the negative self-talk starts happening, what voices of expectations are they really? And should I be listening to that? Are those really is that really my voice? And usually it's not.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? A lot of it comes from, some things our parents taught us. I know mine, based around worth, was about the whole church thing,
Oh, yeah.
How could a God love me that much that he would send his only son to die for me, and he didn't even know me? He was sinless. I'm not worthy of that. And I think a lot of people in the whole Christian tradition kind of carry that along with them too. How can I be worthy of such great love? And so that's a tape that plays in my head on and on.
Yeah, so you just have to turn it around and just say, I am loved. I am worthy. I am righteous through what Jesus did.
Right.
And God doesn't see us as sinners. He sees us as Jesus.
Yeah, and that was something that I had to learn. Because
and
I
Jesus
always
is
thought
beautiful.
that he would judge me here on earth, and then when I get to heaven, then that would be my judgment day. Well, in actuality, it's now. I'm free now, which is what grace is all about.
And that's very freeing to know and to accept that our sins are forgiven now, the past, and in the future.
Yeah.
It's very freeing, and it brings you to believe the right way.
But a lot of times I think that we're not, we know it up here, but we don't know it in our hearts. And so I think today what I want to talk about is how do we drill that into our hearts. And that's why when I came up with the acronym for worthy, that I thought that might be a good guide for us to go through. So if you're willing to kind of go with that, let's do it. So W was about who is telling you you're not worthy. And you just discussed that, Tina. You just talked about stopping and recognizing and trying to figure out where that little voice is coming from.
Where is it coming from? Is it my voice?
Yeah.
And I think what you need to really do is to have some still, quiet time to determine that. You have to have that quiet time to hear the voice of God too. What's he calling you to do?
Exactly.
And you have to allow that time and allow that voice and your voice to come through.
Now, I use a practice, it's an exercise that came from, called The Work by Byron Katie. I don't know if you're familiar with that or
I'm
not.
not.
So if you go to www.thework.com,
Okay.
you would find out about this, and it's actually about questions. So
Yes.
when you come up with a belief that I'm not worthy about doing something, you can take that belief and then kind of turn it around to find out if it's really true or not, and it helps your mind to start develop the understanding that a belief is a belief is a belief. It may not be true, and it may not be serving you anymore. And at one point in time, it might have protected you, but not anymore. So
Well, I
it's a
think
good
it comes
tool.
down to a lot of fear. So
yeah.
fear really runs the show.
Yep.
So one of the questions you need to ask is, what am I afraid of? What am I really afraid of?
And worth goes around what kind of fear?
Well, am I good enough?
Yeah.
Am I being judged?
That whole love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I being loved?
But basically, I think self-judgment keeps you stuck.
Oh yeah. Exactly.
So I think maybe one of your goals should be, let's get unstuck. And you have to release that self-judgment and look at what it is you're really afraid of.
Yeah. And why do you think people are afraid to do that?
Because they're too busy. They don't take the time.
Do you think they might be afraid of seeing something that they don't want to see in themselves?
That's true too. But I think putting the self first is taught to us at a very young age. That's selfish. So I think when I talk about priorities and values, I talk about putting yourself first. I talk to a lot of business women because I'm a sales coach, and the biggest thing that comes up is time management. I don't have enough time for everything. Well, we only have 24 hours in a day, and I asked them this question: if you had 24 hours to get stuff done, would you be able to get it done? And the answer is always no. So then I say, well, this is where priority management comes in. So instead of time management, let's look at priority management. And at the top of the list has to be self-care.
I would agree to that totally. And we, especially as women, we just don't pay attention to that, do we? Always put, if there's some time at the end of the day, or maybe I'll have a moment or an hour on the weekend, well, that never comes.
No,
Yeah,
no.
You have to make the time.
You have to prioritize that as being the number one, because you talk about, when you're in the airplane, they tell you to put if the mask drops down, you put it on yourself first, and then you help others. How can you help others if something's not right with you?
Exactly.
So it's not selfish. It's actually caring. For being able to care for yourself allows you to care for others.
You bet. Okay, the O in worthy is own that you can change it and overcome the negative self-talk. And really, negative self-talk is a habit, isn't it? Yeah. It's something that we've developed over time, and it takes time to replace that habit. So a lot of people that I coach say, well, how come I just can't change it immediately? Well, habits take time, 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, it takes at least 21 days to change a habit, and to really have it ingrained, it takes 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So if people know that going into it, it might be a little easier.
Yeah. And owning it does indicate that it's a choice. And I think that's what we don't want to admit.
It's your intentions.
Yeah.
If you have the intention to do something, you'll do it.
Yeah, I want to be my own best friend. Why would I not want to be, So if we have some negative self-talk coming up, if we want to feel worthy, then we have to say, okay, I'm going to make some changes, and I'm going to start a new habit, which goes into the R, which is recognize when a negative self-talk starts, and then stop it immediately.
Yes.
I don't know if your clients do this, but mine used to always do it. Is they'd start, it would snowball on them. Okay, I'm not feeling very good about myself this morning, like when you get up in the morning and you're not quite right, then for some reason, if you don't reset your day, it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse.
Yes, the morning's the perfect time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was talking about scheduling time management and putting that, making it more of a priority management.
Mm-hmm.
And the priority is number one is self-care. The morning is the perfect time to take the time to give yourself permission to use that time to clear the brain space, to replace the negative thoughts, to receive the love of God, hear His voice, hear His calling.
It's the day, doesn't it?
Yeah. So that helps with prioritizing the rest of the day.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And when we don't, it can start running away on us.
Chaos. It's
Yeah,
chaos, especially if you have
is.
kids.
Hate that. I just hate that. So the T is turning it around with 2 to 3 positive statements. And you and I talked about this, and because I had 5.
Yeah, and usually if you have more than 3 of anything,
Yep.
it causes confusion and you procrastinate. And we don't want to procrastinate about this, so keep it simple. Write 3 positive statements about yourself. And that way, that shifts the thought, because in the brain, you can replace things. So if you have one thought, you pull that out and replace it with the positive thought. And again, that's a habit. You have to be conscious about it.
Exactly. So one of the tools I use with my clients is I have them keep a journal. It's a day journal. And so one of the things I ask them to do is, if they notice that they're having a negative thought, write it down. First off, they have to recognize that they're having it.
Yes.
And second, I have them do 5. And here's the reason why. It forces them to really think about themselves in a more positive way. And so when we're doing this exercise, because I'm coaching them and I'm holding them accountable, which is a whole lot different than when they're doing it on their own, if they can write down at least 3 to 5 positive statements that can reverse it, it has been proven through research that that's what starts to change that whole negative self-talk habit.
Changes the pattern.
It changes the pattern. Exactly. So I think that's what we need to encourage everyone to do, is just start recognizing and then start changing that talk immediately.
And that's part of self-awareness. And I think self-awareness is huge. You have to know what you want in order to get it.
Exactly.
So you start out with the positive affirmations, and then you have to figure out it is what you want, what it is you want. How do you want to feel? What kind of emotions you want to have?
Yeah. I mean, do you want to walk around feeling bad about yourself? Maybe you do. I don't know.
Choice. It's definitely a choice.
But if it's a choice, then, choose the best part. Choose to honor yourself. So.
Well, and I also think a good affirmation is, I cannot do this alone.
Yeah.
I cannot do this. And that was taught to me by God, because I became a solo entrepreneur. I have a coaching practice. And that was something I couldn't quite grasp until it got pretty chaotic. And you have to learn how to realize that you can't do everything alone. And there's a little perfectionism in there too, and that's a whole nother show, perfectionism.
Yeah.
But if you accept the fact that you cannot do this alone, then you're able to reach out for support.
Now, are you meaning support from God or each other?
Yes,
or what?
yes, and yes.
Yes, and yes, and yes? Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Why do you think it's so hard for people to ask for help?
Well, I think it starts with perfectionism, that I'm in control. There's a lot of control issues with people, that they can do it all. The old adage of, the woman that can have it all. And that's pretty tough to do alone. So you need to seek support. If you're overwhelmed in a certain area, how can you get support? And sometimes you have to pay for it. It doesn't mean that you can't pay for house cleaning every couple of weeks. If that frees you up to do something you really want to do, then that's worth it.
Yeah, I see that a lot in solopreneurs that you talked about, and even in small businesses when you talk to the business owners. Because they started the business and they were everything, and then they started to bring on a couple employees, they still have trust issues with giving things over to other people. And what they really realize that they need to do is it's not just trust, but it's also putting some accountability like lists or accountability reports that can make sure that they're on track.
Well, here's another thing. You have to ask yourself, why are you doing what you're doing? If you're in business, why are you doing that business? And of course, the obvious answer is to make money, but you want to, if you're going to go through all that, you want to enjoy what you do.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But I find that, you're given special gifts by God, and you need to use those gifts. And there's a correlation between your gifts and the money you make. So you're going to make more money doing what you're good at. Delegate the rest.
Right.
And again, if you have to pay for it, that's okay. Some people are not good at technology. Hello, me.
Me too.
So I need to pay for that. I need to get help with that. Coaching is a wonderful way to get support. And of course, we don't, we have to run a business. We have costs, so we do charge for our services.
Really?
No.
I know, it's crazy.
But it helps so many people to move through their world, to move through their day, to make priority, to be held accountable. So there's nothing wrong with doing what you love. That's what you're best at. That's where you're going to make the most money, and then delegate the rest. And even at home, delegate more to your kids, delegate more to your husband.
And when you're talking about worthiness too, when you start doing things that you feel really good about, you start the positive self-talk coming in. And if you're letting the stuff that you're not so good about go to someone else, then the negative self-talk starts to go away because somebody else is doing it.
It really works out well.
Yeah, it's kind of a win-win.
Yeah.
I love that. So another thing, when you talk about worthy, the acronym for H is honor yourself by celebrating your uniqueness and your successes. And this didn't come from me, but I learned this, that especially in the United States, we are the worst at celebrating. I mean, we celebrate birthdays and the holidays, but when it comes down to celebrating who we are and our successes, we don't do it. We just, my mother is great at this, and sorry, Mom, for saying this, but, that's just, that's okay. Gosh, that was a great meal, Mom. Oh, it was nothing. It was nothing. Well, you need to celebrate that. Yeah, I cooked a fantastic meal, and yeah, you guys ate, and it was wonderful, and we had a good time.
Yes.
And when we start changing our habits, and we start reprogramming our brain and changing those neural pathways in our brains, when we start to celebrate and recognize the successes, that's what gets that whole thing moving in our minds. And even if it's I did it, we need to be celebrating the things that we're doing right. And the more we do it, it's not being selfish, it's just honoring the fact that we're using God's gifts and doing the things that we love to do or we should be doing in life and doing them well. And I think that kind of helps change that self-talk too. What do you think about that?
It's all tied together. And we were talking about self-care earlier, prioritizing that. So it's giving yourself permission to do the things you love. And part of that is having a creative side. So allowing yourself the time to bring out that creative side. And if you would allow me to read a quote from Brené Brown, who wrote Daring Greatly. I love that book. She writes that unused creativity is not benign, it metastasizes.
Ooh.
It turns into grief, rage, judgment, sorrow, and shame. So creativity is pretty important. And I think we push that back, and it's not being brought out the way it should be in a lot of people. And some of the, it allows your brain to become self-aware and brings out that connection with yourself. It makes more of who you are, more of who you are. So some of the suggestions is the arts, writing, reading, journaling, we talked about that, vision boards, blogging, music, playing, listening, or writing, photography, dance, yoga, acting, role playing, nature hikes, anything in nature, cooking is creative, sports, and practicing gratitude.
Oh, that's one of my favorites.
Gratitude really is the main thing, I think, that brings joy into your life. It's a very quick way. It's a very quick and easy way to get out of that negative self-talk. You start listing some things that you're grateful for.
Yeah. Do you do a great gratitude journal?
I do. I do. It's very easy. You just list a couple things every day. And or you know, like I said, if I'm upset about something, I have to pop something into my mind, and it does make you feel better very quickly.
Janet and Chris Atwood have a game that's called the Appreciation Game.
Oh.
And they love it because...
And they wrote the Passion Test,
yes,
correct?
They did write the Passion Test book. They love it because when you start telling people what you appreciate about them, sometimes you don't, recognize that in yourself. And if you really do the appreciation game right, which is found in their book, you're never repeating the same thing.
Really?
So if you were a good cook, and I said, "Oh, Tina, you're such a good cook," I couldn't use that again. So the next day, I have to really start being creative.
So you're seeking.
I'm seeking what I really appreciate about you.
Yes.
And even in the little things. And it really helps both people.
Yeah,
if you're
like
willing
that.
to receive it as well too. So it's a great game, and it's great for couples. To take a walk in nature and just say, what I really appreciate about you is. And we don't take time to
That's
do that.
beautiful. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
So you
And
get to take
we
that
don't take the
home.
time. And I think men especially would really receive that well.
Yeah.
Because, that's not what you're normally hearing from your wife's mouth about how she appreciates you. And we do appreciate them,
we
but we
do.
don't tell them.
I know. And shame on us.
Yeah.
Shame on
Yeah, I like
us.
that. I like that.
So try that one.
I will.
I think you'll like it,
Perfect.
and you'll like it too. Well, Y in our WORTHY acronym stands for Declare Yes to Your Birthright Right Now. Not in the future, not in the past, right now.
Right now.
People don't realize that they are co-creators of their lives. They do have a responsibility to make decisions and choices. Otherwise, they live in default. But the biggest thing is that, sometimes we hold ourselves back from everything that God could be giving us.
Yes.
Because we say we're not worthy. And, I think about God sitting in heaven, and I think he wants to go and just shake us and say, yes, you are worthy, yes, you are worthy.
Well, and he does in a way, because there's stuff that happens that we don't realize, that's God knocking at the door.
Oh, really? Oh, shoot. Yeah.
I mean, God's probably saying, what do I have to do to make you realize this is the way I want you to go? So you have to pay attention.
I know. And that does block us too, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
You have to give yourself permission to open up to the possibilities.
Exactly.
And I think that especially women don't want to give themselves permission to do that because we feel, the voices of expectations are in there constantly saying, oh, you better do this or you better do that. And you know. And I think we would become better parents too if we did that. It would be a beautiful example to your children.
Oh,
We don't want our children living a life of, you got to go this way, you got to do that, you got to do, and not pay attention to what's in here and bring it up here.
Exactly. So what do you think about the whole Worthy acronym, and you have anything else you wanted to add maybe?
Well, another question you could ask yourself is, if you are stuck, what's that costing you? What's that costing you with your health? Are you having health problems? Are you overweight? Are you underweight? What's that costing you relationship-wise? What's that costing you in your inner peace?
Yeah.
And if you can come up with some things, then you need to address that. You need to really do some practicing self-awareness and giving yourself permission to really take the time.
I was going to say, again, you have to take the time to do that. Exactly.
Schedule in that priority management sequence of self-care at the top.
And it could be as simple as starting out with, 2 to 3 minutes a day.
Yes.
And then starting to build up a little bit more.
And part of that is exercise, prayer and meditation.
Yep. And just some good self-reflection. And sometimes I think not even reflecting at all, just appreciating what's around us is huge.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that. Well, this is such a good conversation. We could talk about this for hours.
Oh, I know.
We? But it is one of the biggest problems that people have out there, the things that really hold them back, is just knowing that they are worthy of everything that God wants.
People are waiting for your gifts.
Yeah, exactly. So let it go and bless people with what's going on.
Yes.
I love that. Well, thanks again for doing
welcome.
this.
Thank
and I hope that we
you.
can get together again, and
Absolutely.
I'm sure we will.
Yes.
And address some other issues that are going on.
Oh, we have a lot of juicy issues coming up.
We do. I love that.
Thank you.
Again, you can get a hold of Tina at comfyconnections.com, and myself, Ellen Mann, at ellenmann.com. And that's a wrap for today, guys. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, crew here at Access Fort Wayne.
Thank you, crew.
You guys are awesome, and I truly, truly appreciate the things that you bring.
Thank you
and,
so
and
much.
the ability to letting us get our message out there. And for my audience, please, if you have any suggestions or comments, things you'd like to see on the show, please email me at ellen@ellenmann.com. And most of all, I want you to remember that you have only one life. Why not live it to its fullest and be the light that God intended you to be? Thanks.